What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to try a new approach of things where I'm going to give my honest opinion on SHEDEUR Sanders um, with stats. I'm going to back it up with stats. I'm going to do something that no other sports commentator and creator has ever did. Like, for example, Flight and Cash, when they give their opinion, it's pretty much it's pretty much biased by their favorite. And this one, I have sources that I'm going to put down in the video. For those who want to know my sources, it's Fox Sports Radio and ESPN, mostly about SHEDEUR Sanders and his combine ratings. So, with that being said, let's jump into the video. So, everybody knows the Deion Sanders. He is an NFL personality that is currently the head coach at Colorado State University. Um, at Colorado University, the Colorado University Buffaloes is his team name, and uh, during this time he has put his son Shedeur Sanders and other son Shiloh Sanders on his team. Both Shedeur and Shiloh were drafted in the 2025 NFL draft class. Were drafted in the 2025 NFL draft class. Shedeur being fifth rounder pick, and Shiloh being shy of the fourth by the Buccaneers, and Shedeur Sanders being picked by the Browns. So why did he get picked fifth round? Firstly, it could seem interesting because he didn't do the combine because he just sent the stats. He didn't do the combine. I couldn't find online proof that he did the combine. I found instead proof that he didn't do the combine test, but he was present during the combine interviews. So I had to go to his college stats to bring up the first stats. So his 40-yard dash, he was clocked at a 4.7 low, which is acceptable since the average is 4.93. If you want to know what I'm looking down here is notes. It's all my notes for the on this because I tend to get a little bit shaken up by thoughts. So I did go old school by using papers. So instead of running the 4.93, that is the average, he did it on a 4.74, which is pretty good. Um, Most coaches says that he takes unnecessary risk and he holds onto the ball too much, which isn't good. Which isn't good when you face an overall type blitz offense. Everybody knows that when the blitz for non-football learners is when the defense sends everybody they have to try to tackle the quarterback, and a quarterback that holds the ball in too much has that problem. If you don't release the ball, if you don't have a fast release, it's very, very problematic and it's very one-sided. Whereas you can, if you hold onto the ball until the wide receiver finishes his route, the cornerback can adjust to the route and perform more interceptions. So that could be a liability to certain teams, and it could be pretty easily countered with a blitz. Afterwards, Afterwards comes the interview in which he claims he is accustomed to pressure and that a day in the NFL would be just like a normal day to him. That's going to come bite him in the ass if you know what I'm talking about. Um, anyways, he comes in and just chimes in and just gets really happy about shit, uh, saying that he's accustomed to high pressure situations and that he is a considerable he considers himself as a guarantee free risk, a thing that isn't correct, because if you are a guarantee free risk, why wouldn't you want to prove it by doing the combine. See, he doesn't make sense on this first behalf. Then after comes his more personality and psychological part. So his dad is an NFL star and his mother is an actress and TV personality. So that's boost his ego, and we've seen it because he didn't take the test, not because he was injured, but because he was overconfident that they were going to take him as a nepo baby, as his father's name said. And that is very dangerous for starting players in any sport, in any given sport, because it's overconfidence at its maximum. Then his actress then comes again after the combine and draft, and when he starts the interviews for teams, he purposefully butchers some of the interviews, notably the one with the Giants, where he left quote unquote pissed because pissed, and he made the Giants recruiting manager uncomfortable, which led to various other teams got who got the word saying we're not going to take him because he's a liability, he's too egocentric for a team, for a sports that's played primarily on teams. So that is why he was a fifth round pick. If that's interesting, if that's interesting enough. Plus, after some times after he get drafted with the Cleveland Browns, we discovered that he denied. He said he wasn't interested in going in for the Ravens because the Ravens wanted him as a second string to back up Lamar, who is an already aging quarterback and has got injury prone, which came back to bite him in the ass because Lamar Jackson did actually get injured and he could have started playing with one of arguably the best offenses in the league, having Zay Flowers, having Derrick Henry, and having Mark Andrews at his side and having Andrews as a tight end, and having the tight end. I don't know if it's Andrews or stuff like this, or if I'm just misleading him. The tight end that dropped the ball against the Bills. That's who I was referring to last season. So he could have had a decent starting lineup, but instead he decides to get drafted by Cleveland as a fifth round pick behind Dylan Gabriel, who was a good QB, who did the combine. And it wasn't because he was better at the combine, it was because the psychological advantage made that Stefanski, the head coach of the Browns, is starting him um, instead of SHEDEUR. They also take Flacco to experiment with a lot of QBs, and so he becomes and hence he becomes the third string quarterback starting behind Flacco, Dion Gabriel, and then there's SHEDEUR Sanders, which means he doesn't practice with the A team, which is something that various commentators and radio and podcast hosts like like um, like Shannon Sharpie, like Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco did say that he didn't train with the A-listers. Of course he didn't. He is a third stringer. Now, where Stefanski does make the mistake is after trading Flacco to the Bengals mid-season because Burrow got injured. He SHEDEUR becomes the second string quarterback, and he doesn't get any reps with the starting team. This could mean either two things. If we're thinking by the week, that either Dylan Gabriel is considered by Stefanski to be their guy, or that he still considers SHEDEUR's ego as a liability for the team. Otherwise, the only thing that can be criticized about SHEDEUR Sanders is his immense ego. His comparison of body type is Geno Smith. He didn't have the brightest career, and he is going to face him on his next matchup this weekend, tomorrow, against Raiders. Then comes the part of he starts against Cleveland after Dylan Gabriel leaves for concussion. Dylan Gabriel had decent numbers, and he had a passer rating of an 88.3, who wasn't pretty good. But here comes SHEDEUR Sanders for the last two quarters. So his stats this game are, and I'm sorry, I'm going to read them, so I'm going to be facing down. 4 completed passes for 16 attempts for 47 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a rating of 13.5. That's trash. In any start of any rookie, even if you do one half, throwing for 47 yards, not even midfield, is absolute garbage. It doesn't matter if the receivers drop the pass, if the receivers drop the shit. Throwing 4 completions for 16 attempts is miserable. Okay, whether the wide receivers are the fucking best in the league or the worst in the league, 4 for 16 means two things: or the defense was pretty good, which indicates it was, or the QB is an absolute idiot who throws on double coverage, which he did because of the interception where he underthrew it by about 2 yards. His receiver was here and he threw the ball here, and he threw the ball here on the screen. So it was a pick, and he threw it on double coverage against one of the best performing offenses in the league, which is completely his fault. It doesn't matter that he got hit 5 seconds later. He could have aimed at the guy. But because he is jumpy, because he doesn't release the ball immediately, he puts himself in dangers and situations where he can get sacked, and he will get sacked if the defense calls an all-out blitz, which happened when the interception happened. Then comes around the part of the ego and why did Stefanski didn't start it. And it's mainly because of his massive ego. The guy didn't do the combine first. Secondly, he thought he could choose a team where you can't choose a team. You can't. You're offered a team and you said, okay, I'm gonna be the second string for maybe 2-3 years. The time he's going to for by the time Lamar Jackson is going to stay healthy, then maybe I could transition to take more snaps and prove myself. But I like to train because I see my failures and I see the possibility of if the defense calls an out-loud blitz that I could get sacked because my O-line is trash in Cleveland. But again, he didn't think about that. He focused instead on being the egotistical and maniac person that he was, thinking that because his dad performed well in the NFL that he could perform well, when in fact it was the exact opposite. And plus, my guy, you made it to the NFL. At this point, if I were you, I would have jumped on Baltimore's offer. I would have jumped on New York's offer. I would have jumped on the first offer coming. I'm taking it. I'm taking it because you don't have to cherry pick. You can be the cherry picker when you didn't do the combine and you made everybody uncomfortable in interviews. You don't do that. You don't do that. You can't make the cherry picker when your stats in college didn't amount for don't amount and don't compare to any of the starters. You cannot do that. And that's a problem with Nepo babies, and that's why he's never going to succeed. In my opinion, he won't succeed if he continues with his maniac persona of putting himself first, and going above and beyond on slandering everybody else. Because that's the problem. He hates on everybody else. He throws shit on everybody else, and his career start was miserable for somebody that considered himself a primary risk taker. Yes, he didn't have many starts with the A team, but the interception, you can look it up on the internet. It has nothing. It has no excuse whatsoever. The guy was coming from his blind side, so he didn't see it and try to get rid of the ball, which I honestly, when I first saw the highlights, I thought he was gonna get rid of the ball. But then I replayed it and I saw that he was looking this way and the defender was coming that way, that way, that way. So he didn't see it. If he was like this, you can't see what comes from this way. So it was a pass. Again, it's too easy for him to be a cherry picker when you're a nepo baby. But again, if you're an Apple baby and you try to play the cherry picker, you have to prove yourself. Which is why I am waiting for a second part of this documentary on his game against the Raiders and Geno Smith. I know the Raiders aren't a good team at all, and he's probably going to look good, and I hope so because I don't want to believe he's going to be a Johnny Manziel 2.0, where he's going to bounce from team to team to team to team to team to team. Because, and all of this isn't because of Kevin Stefanski. Well, part of is, but most of is part is due to his immense ego and the fact that he thought he was going to be the first drafted and didn't have even to do the combine. You have to do the combine so that teams that are in desperate need for a quarterback, like the Giants, like the Colts, like the like the Cleveland Browns, could see, oh, okay, he has more chances, he's better than Dylan Gabriel, because because your stats aren't helped when most of your stats are given by your dad. He could fabricate those stats. It's easily comprehensible that coming from a family of the Deion Sanders, by the way, his brother was cut from Tampa Bay not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. Shiloh Sanders isn't in Tampa Bay anymore. He's listed as a free agent. So maybe the Deion Sanders generation is going to be a boss. I don't know. I hope he has a good game with the Raiders. I'm going to react to said game against the Raiders on the channel so you guys can see. And I would have, and I will have the notes to compare to his first game and to see if he really is that good. And to all the haters and cocksuckers of Shedeur Sanders on the comments down below, I will retract my statement if he does a good game. But the problem is that players like this with huge egos don't shut the fuck up. Don't don't think, okay, I'm mistaken, I'm going to stop doing that and actually start playing as a good quarterback. Start taking the leave and l- taking the shape to myself and um, don't be a douchebag by expecting a start. So that's my honest opinion on Shedeur Sanders and on why I think he's not going to make it in the league. To this question, I would answer it's because of his massive ego, and I think I made that clear because egotistical players like this don't have a bright future in the league. A prime example of that is the nowadays Russell Wilson, where we see a Russell Wilson that is completely living off his past and expecting big deals from big teams that never come. That is my honest opinion on Shedeur Sanders. I don't think he can make it as an NFL QB. Um, for what I've seen. Now, I've got to see his Raider performance, and afterwards, I would make a part two, either apologizing or reinforcing the statements with new basis. I will add a part two to the video, so subscribe to not miss that video. Put the like button; it really helps me out knowing what direction you want me to put. And please, 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 please remember, you're special to me. You matter to me. I love you, and I'm going to say you goodbye, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.